My name is Cory Althoff, and welcome to my presentation, How I Created a Facebook Programming Group with 50,000 plus members. So my goal today is to tell you how to create your own Facebook community filled with developers. That's hopefully a great, thriving community. But I also tried to pack a bunch of marketing lessons in, just in case you're not interested in creating a Facebook group. Hopefully you'll learn some marketing tips for marketing to a technical audience. So to understand how my programming Facebook group started, I have to first tell you about my journey learning to code. So in college, I tried to learn to program, but failed. And when I graduated from college with a major in political science, I struggled to get a job. I felt like I didn't have the skills that employers were looking for. So, unable to find a job, I decided to try to learn to program. I was living in Silicon Valley, surrounded by coders, so I thought, why not give it a try? So, I bought all the books and courses. If you look to the right, that is Think Python. That is the first programming book that I ever bought and read. So, I worked really, really hard at it, made some progress, and 6 months later, I got my first interview at a company, and it was a technical interview, but unfortunately, I bombed the interview. However, eventually, I did end up as a software engineer at eBay, working on eBay Now, which was eBay's delivery service. It was an amazing, fantastic team, and I really enjoyed the experience. And after working at several companies in Silicon Valley, I decided to write a book about my experience called The Self-Taught Programmer, The Definitive Guide to Programming Professionally. The reason I wrote The Self-Taught Programmer was because I wanted to create a roadmap for people to take the same journey that I did when I was learning how to code. I was a little bit frustrated because I had to piece together information from so many different sources. There was a lot of resources to learn to code, but there was no one single resource that said, all right, if you want to program professionally and become a software engineer, you need to learn to code. You also need to learn object-oriented programming and other programming paradigms. You need to learn programming tools like Git, and you need to learn about version control and regular expressions, and you need to learn computer science, and this is what to expect in a technical interview. So I wanted to put all of those things together into one single resource that people could use as the ultimate guide to going from a complete beginner to a software engineer. To my disbelief, my book has now sold more than 150,000 copies worldwide. My Udemy course of the same name has 140,000 students enrolled, and my Facebook community, Self-Taught Programmers, has 60,000 members. My book has also been translated to a bunch of different languages, including Japanese, and Japan is one of the best-selling markets for my book, which has been really cool. We just released a commemorative edition of the book with a special cover to celebrate 10 successful print runs selling out. So that was really cool. And I've also had the opportunity to come to Japan twice, most recently to speak at PyCon JP. I love Japan. It's one of my favorite countries I've ever been to. I always have so much fun every time I'm in Tokyo. And I also visited Kyoto as well. I'm looking forward to hopefully coming back, maybe giving another speech and exploring Japan further. But I absolutely love Japan. So what am I doing now? Well, my new book, The Self-Taught Computer Scientist, is coming out in July. Super excited about that. And it's a book about data structures and algorithms. I covered that a bit in my first book, but this goes into more depth. I'm also working as a developer advocate at Vonage on the community team, which is awesome. It's my dream job. For the past 3 to 4 years before joining Vonage, I was working on building community, building up my Facebook group, and creating a blog, all that stuff. So all I was doing was basically building community. And so when I had the opportunity to join Vonage's community team, it was awesome because I got to work building community in a corporate environment. So it's super cool. And I also get to spread awareness about Vonage's APIs. We have a bunch of different really cool APIs for developers, for sending SMS messages, for making phone calls programmatically. And we have a live streaming, an API that lets you stream video live, which I'm super, super excited about. So that is what I'm doing now. 4 years ago, though, I created the Self-Taught Programmers Facebook group. And the idea was to create a community for programmers or aspiring programmers that don't have a computer science degree. So that's sort of the thing that glues us all together. And today we have over 60,000 members. We also have really high engagement rates. This shows the comments over the last 28 days, and we've had 3,492 comments over the last 30 days or 28 days. So super, super high engagement. I just want to share a couple success stories because that's what makes this group so fun. Victor posted a message saying that 1 year ago, he started programming with little direction, but today he's working using Python at a major tech company. And Dragon said he recently got a job as a programmer full-time. So these success stories are what make this group really, really fun. So how do you create your own community of developers? Well, the first thing you want to do is find your niche. You don't have to make your group about your company. For example, if you were Upwork.com, say I was advising Upwork.com. If you're not familiar, they are a website that specializes in freelance. They basically connect freelance programmers and other freelance people with companies. And instead of making the group called Upwork.com, if I was advising them, I would tell them to just make a Facebook group called Freelance Programmers. And that is something that people feel passionate about. And there's a lot of content that you can create with around that concept. So, people in the group might ask, how much do you charge? How do you find clients? Stuff like that. So the thing you really want to ask yourself is, do people feel passionate about the topic that you're creating a group around? At the beginning, you're going to be the only one creating content. So you have to make sure that you're creating really good content that makes people want to join your group. So how do you create engaging Facebook content? Well, one way is to use Facebook's built-in features. For example, polls and posts with colorful backgrounds. So this is an example of a post I did recently that performed really well. Facebook has a built-in feature that lets you create posts that look like this with really big font and a colorful background. And that always tends to work really well. Here's an example of me creating a poll in the group, asking what your favorite programming language is and having a bunch of different options. And that's a built-in Facebook feature as well that does really well. Other types of content that perform really well on Facebook include memes. You don't have to make all of your content memes, but programmers love memes. And there's a limitless supply of really, really funny programming memes. And they're shareable, people like them, they're fun. And so sprinkling in memes with your content when you're posting in your group can be an effective way to make people laugh, build community, have people having fun. Other high-performing content include questions. So starting a conversation. A lot of times on social media, people just talk about themselves, but you want to start a dialogue and you want to talk to people in the group and ask what questions they have. And you can do stuff like starting a debate. For example, whenever I post in my Facebook group about stuff like, what's the best programming language? It gets hundreds of comments because people feel very strongly about that topic. If you start a debate, especially developers love to share their opinions, and that's a great way to create a lot of engagement in your Facebook group and generate interest. Sharing interest in images, for example, say a Python snake that looks like it's wrapped around a laptop coding and stuff like that tends to do really well. And stories, tell a story. I share stories all the time in my Facebook group. People are wired to respond to stories. So if you can share a story, for example, I often talk about, my journey going from a complete beginner to working at eBay, what types of roadblocks I ran into, stuff like that. And that tends to be very engaging. Content that does not perform well on Facebook, anything that moves the user off of Facebook. Facebook is a business, and they're in the business of keeping people on their platform so they can show ads. So you want to avoid links. You don't want to create a Facebook group and then every post that you make links to your blog or links to YouTube, because Facebook is not going to give posts like that very high engagement. It's not going to show it to a lot of people, so people aren't going to engage with it. So you want to avoid links when possible. It's fine to link to your YouTube video or to link to your blog, but that shouldn't be your main source of content within your group. So how do you grow your Facebook group? Well, one tip I have for you is to make your group public. When you're creating a group, you have the option to make it either private or public. But public groups help growth because non-members can see your group's posts. So this was a big debate when I was starting my group. Some people wanted it to be private. Some people wanted it to be public. Some people had concerns that they wouldn't be as willing to share questions if the group wasn't private. But making my group public was one of the best decisions I ever made, because basically someone will join the group and post, and then that post will get pushed to their friends and they will then join the group. And that has led to a lot of the organic growth that we've had. You also want to consider doing paid promotion. So most of my group's growth has been organic, but in the first month, I did do paid promotion. I ran ads just saying, look, here's the Self-Taught Programmers Facebook group. It's for people that are learning how to code or know how to code. that don't have a CS degree and you might want to join. It's free. That did really, really well. Facebook has a lot of great targeting options with their ads, so you can specifically target developers. You can even specifically target developers that don't have a degree. I also did a lot of giveaways and still to this day do a ton of giveaways. I'm a huge believer of giveaways. I'm constantly giving away my Udemy course for free, giving away my book for free. I've even actually given away a laptop on Instagram away for free. And it's a really great way to build community and to get people to know about your group. So how do you create a happy Facebook community? Well, first of all, you want to find moderators. The way I did it was just simply posting in my community, asking if anyone wants to be a moderator. I got a huge response. If no one wants to help, it is a sign people don't feel passionately enough about your topic, and that maybe you selected the wrong niche and should start over and find a niche that people will feel more passionately about. If you're not familiar with the term moderators, moderators are someone in a Facebook community or any other community that basically just helps make sure that there's no inappropriate posts. They may approve posts, stuff like that. You also want to create post guidelines and ask each member to review them when they sign up. So when your group starts to grow, you're going to have a lot of people asking the same questions over and over again. So you might want to create post guidelines to make sure that that doesn't happen. Facebook groups allow you to choose whether a post just directly hits your group live or whether it has to be pre-approved by you or a moderator first. In my group, posts have to be approved by me or a moderator before they go live. I highly recommend doing that because as your group grows, people are going to post a lot of content that isn't very high quality. And if you let all of that content through, people are going to leave your group. They're not going to be interested in seeing low quality content. A lot of people come in and spam. And so I definitely recommend setting your group so that you have to approve the post. So how do you promote your product in your group? You're going to want to jab, hook. That, of course, is the title of Gary Vee's famous book. The idea is to give, ask. So like I said before, a lot of people on social media just ask. They just talk about themselves. You don't want to do that. You're creating a community and you want to provide a lot of value. So how do you provide value? You create high quality content. You help people answer questions when they have questions. You do giveaways. You give away swag for your company, stuff like that, where you're giving value, give away a free ebook, write a really long blog post that helps answer questions. Only after you've given a ton of value do you ask someone to buy your product, for example. You also want to make sure your hooks, a hook is when you ask someone to buy your product, are similar to your jobs. So don't just say, buy this, here's a discount code, and throw up a link. Use a good image, tell a story. Here's an example of a post that I did recently that did really well. You can see that I have both of my books, a picture of both of my books. There is a very big picture. And in the description, I told a story. I talked about where I was at when I published my first book, about how I had to self-publish it, how I did a Kickstarter for it, all that kind of stuff. And then I talked about where I'm at now, publishing it with a big publisher. And this post did really well because I told a story. You can also use a Facebook group to collect emails. So you can ask new members questions when they sign up, including what their email address is. And I collect hundreds of email addresses a month for my group, and that is super helpful for sales. I make a lot of sales of my book, both of my books and my course, through the Facebook, through the emails that I collect in my Facebook group. You can follow up with an email drip sequence. So you can first welcome new members to your group and then send helpful content and direct them toward your product. And so it gives you another channel of reaching people, which is super powerful. So imagine having a Facebook group and collecting hundreds or thousands of emails a month, and then being able to send a drip sequence out to those people, introducing them to you, introducing them to your company, and then eventually introducing them to your product. It's super powerful, and it's a great way to build your email list, as well as to create an amazing, engaged community that is familiar with your products. There's a couple different ways that we are building community at Vonage. So we have Vonage Voyagers, the Vonage Startup Program, and Twitch. So Twitch, we have developer advocates that host live shows each week that appeal to developers. And so we don't have any shows about Vonage. That's one of the marketing lessons I talked about in this presentation. we don't just have shows that talk about our APIs or anything like that. We just create content that appeals to developers in general. For example, I have a show called Now We're Talking, and I interview different people in the tech community. The idea is to create a lot of value, to create something that developers like, and then occasionally we talk about Vonage. So if you're interested in checking out what we're doing on Twitch, you can go to twitch.tv/VonageDevs. We also have Vonage Voyagers, which is a community of developers using our communication APIs. And the same thing, we use the marketing lessons I talked about in this presentation by providing a ton of value to our Voyagers. So we provide mentorship. We do meetups almost every week. We do tons of meetups and just provide a ton of value. Our Voyagers get featured on our social media, and they all have the opportunity to get featured on our blog as well. And so we do give, provide as much value as possible. And the only thing that we ask for return is some feedback on our APIs. So if you're interested in checking out Vonage Voyagers, an awesome community that I'm involved with, you can go to developer.vonage.com/Voyagers to check that out. And we've also got the Vonage Startup Program, which is our program dedicated to helping startups succeed. So same thing, we focus on creating value for our startups, and we give away our APIs for free. Normally you have to pay for them, but we give them to our startups for free. And same as Voyagers, we do a lot of mentorship and stuff like that. So if you go to developer.vonage.com/startups, you can check that out. Here's some books that I recommend if you want to learn more about creating a successful community. Jab, 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 Right Hook. I mentioned that earlier by Gary Vee. That is a great book that teaches you how to be effective on social media. So I definitely recommend checking that out. Influence is one of my favorite marketing books of all time. You learn a lot about social proof and how that impacts people's perception of you and how that can be helpful in marketing, all kinds of stuff. That's very, very helpful for anyone interested in marketing. And then People Powered by Jono Bacon is a great book that specifically talks about how to build a Facebook group. So I definitely recommend checking that out as well. So thank you so much for having me. I hope you learned a bit about creating a super engaged, awesome Facebook community. And feel free to connect with me on Twitter. If you have any questions, let me know. Let me know what Facebook group you're thinking about starting, or if you have one, send me the link to it. I'd love to check it out. But my username is @Cory Althoff. I would love to connect with you all. And let me know if you have any questions. So thank you all so much. And again, I want to thank everyone for coming to this presentation. And thank you so much, DevRelCon Tokyo, for having me. So thank you very much.